Hey everyone, this is Stan, K9SWX, and we're going to be looking at the Yaesu FT5DR handheld dual band transceiver. So this is Yaesu's current high-end handheld radio, which they released in, I think it was August of 2021. It's very similar to their previous FT3DR model, which I briefly had. It's a dual band. It transmits on 2 meters and 70 centimeters, and it also has a very wide receive of 500 kilohertz to just under a gigahertz. It has a built-in 66-channel GPS as well as APRS functionality, and has Bluetooth. It also supports Yaesu System Fusion, which is their digital version, digital mode. It has 2 independent receivers, so you can listen to 2 stations at the same time, but this is not the same as full duplex. It also has AM and FM broadcast reception while listening to your regular A and B bands. I've had the radio for about 4 months, so I want to share some of my thoughts on the radio. So first off, how much is this thing? It's not the cheapest of radios. I got it during the May 2022 Hamvention sale from HRO, and this is not sponsored, by the way. It had an additional $80 off for Hamvention, and plus $20 from Yaesu for which they seem to be running all year long. I bought a bunch of accessories because I wanted to use it not only handheld, but I wanted to put it in the car as well. So I wanted to have some accessories for that. So I picked up I've got the speaker mic, I've got a Comet dual band antenna, I've got the car charger, I bought a micro SD card for it, I've got the soft case, I bought the RT Systems programming software and cable, which is pretty cool. Makes programming a lot easier. And the quick charging cradle, which charges it a lot faster than the regular power cord. So the total for all this was $654.32. That's a lot of money. If you wanted to buy the same setup now, it's going to cost you another $80. So we're going to be, over $700 right now if you bought all the accessories with the radio. Now, you obviously don't need all these accessories, but it makes, as I said earlier, using it in the car, at home, and if I want to go on a hike, having these accessories are very helpful. I did have to sell my Kenwood D72 to fund this purchase because I don't have $654 laying around all the time. So that's usually the story of my radio purchases, is I have to sell one to buy another one, or sell a couple things to pay for a new thing or whatever. So we'll start off with the things I like about this radio. Obviously, the first thing is APRS. Since I had to sell my D72, I wanted a radio that still had some APRS functionality. Now, it's not as robust as the D72, but it does the job. The cool thing is I can have it here on the B band while I can monitor other stations like a voice repeater or simplex or airplanes or whatever on the A band. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if I can get a signal in here, but we will try to send a beacon. Oh, can't do that. Got to turn the GPS on. So let me turn the GPS on. So right now I don't have the GPS enabled. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the GPS by going into the menu here. Go to APRS, GPS power. We're going to turn that on. Now, usually it doesn't take too long to get a lock, and you can see the little GPS icon up there blinking. And then when it gets a good enough signal, it'll stop blinking. But you can also monitor that on the display here. If you tap here, it'll show you the satellites that it's picking up. And again, I'm indoors away from a window right now, so it's probably not a very good example of what I was going to talk about with how fast the GPS acquires a signal. But eventually it will get a signal. So let me pause a minute here, and I'll get a signal and then bring it back and see if we can get it to show up here. As you can see, I got my signal now. The GPS is solid. I'm still indoors, getting a good enough signal to get a lock here. It thinks I'm moving 4 miles an hour, but I'm not. So we'll get out of that. And I will go here and try to send my position. Okay, well, it's sent, so that's that. But usually you would have it on if you're in a mobile or portable, walking around with it, you'd have it in auto mode for transmitting. But I just have it in manual for now for demonstration purposes. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. The GPS, once you get it, to a window or something, it locks on pretty quick. So that's not too shabby. So another thing I like about this is the memory banks. And some of the older radios, they'll give you like 10 banks or 5 banks, but they'll lock you into you put 100 in this bank and 100 in the next bank, and that's a huge waste, I think. It's not a very efficient method of putting in your memories. So, because what I like to do is I like to have my local repeaters, maybe the weather, NOAA weather radio, simplex frequencies, things like that in one bank, just so it scans really quick. That way, if someone hops on a local repeater, it'll grab it real quick, and I'll know I can hop in there if I need to talk to them. But this one is nice because you can have one, you can have one memory in a bank, or you can have, I don't know what the limit is, but however many it has. But it's great because right now this is my local one, bank 1. It's my home. I just labeled it home. But then I've got, if I'm traveling, I put repeaters close to the highway I'm traveling on. Like if I'm going to Indianapolis or something, I got those frequencies. And there's some satellites, and then FRS. Oh, there's an APRS. Anyway, then I've got some air frequencies in there. I've got like airports in Indiana, Illinois, and then I've got our local airport if I just want to listen to that. And then I've got Chicago Center frequencies, Indianapolis Center, and Kansas City, which you can pick up all kinds of stuff with that. So that's pretty cool. And then back to home. So that's, I really like that because some you just have to, if you want to put in all the repeaters in your state, or if you can even do that, a lot of radios don't let you do that in certain banks. So this is a big feature I really like about this radio. So sticking with the memory management on this radio, they've also got another feature called bank linking, where you can link 2 or more banks together. So the way I have mine set up is if I go into the menu here and go into memory, you can hit bank link, and then you get all the different banks you want. And right now I have the air frequencies, all my banks that air frequencies are in, I have them checked. So when I go to scan one of the banks that is in that group, let me get out of this. So we'll just hop up here. We'll just start there, and then we'll do a scan. So you can see it jumping right there through all the different banks. Well, that's pretty cool. Now, if I just want to listen to my local airport or just Chicago Center, I can do that. I can link just those 2 together. So that's really cool. I really like the memory management in this radio. So another thing I like about this radio is just the feel, the size. I mean, it's, I've got it here, and I can reach all the buttons. It fits in my hand real well. It's not too bulky. It's pretty light. So that's one thing I really like about this radio is, I sold my D72 to pay for this radio, and it was a little bulkier. And I also briefly had the Kenwood D74, which was an awesome radio. A lot of stuff in that radio, but that radio just didn't feel portable to me. It didn't have that HT feel. It felt more like you needed to keep it sitting on a desk or something. To me, that's just me. But this radio has a nice feel, nice portability. So I really like that part of it. Now, another nice feature of this radio is it has a touchscreen, which is pretty nice. If you just touch this once, you get the frequency without the memory name on it. Touch it again. You know, it's a very nice looking screen. There's a lot of information packed on here. Like it's got the mode, the channel, the bank, and then up here it kind of looks like a cell phone where you got your battery level, and then it'll have GPS and other things if at the top here, depending on what mode you're in. So it's just a really nice touchscreen. I know a lot of people like the buttons. So there's not too many buttons down here, and it doesn't have your normal keypad like a lot of radios do. But I find the menu pretty easy to get into, because if you hold this down, the F key, there's all your main stuff there. So it's pretty nice screen. So one of the other features that this radio is known for is the digital capability. It will do C4 FM, or System Fusion as Yaesu calls it. And we don't have any repeaters in our area with System Fusion, so I just have a hotspot in the other room. And right now I have it hooked up to I guess it's called the Echo, or the Parrot frequency, or channel group, whatever it's called. So I'm going to do a quick test and show you what it sounds like here. And I've got the speaker mic hooked up. You can see it. The SSM 17A. So I'm just going to do a quick test here. Looks like I'm getting some interference locally, but that's okay. K9SWX testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
K9SWX testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Let me try that again. I had the sound down. This is K9SWX testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
This is K9SWX testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So not too shabby. Everybody has their opinion about the digital modes, but it sounds all right. The only thing I notice is if you connect to one of the groups online that are connected to multiple groups, like you'll have DMR and System Fusion and D-Star all connected. Sometimes the audio doesn't sound very good, but if it's just System Fusion, it sounds really good. So another cool feature about this radio is you can record both your transmit and receive audio. Now, if you set that up, you hold down the F key and go into transmit receive, and then audio, and then number 6, recording. And you can pick which bands. It'll record both bands if you want it to, and if you want to record your audio, your transmit audio, you want the mic on. And then just to do an example here, I've got the weather radio here, so I'm gonna hit the F key, hit record. It says record start, and then you see a red dot up here showing it's recording. We'll give it a couple seconds here. We'll hit F and then record stop. Now we'll hit the F key again, go into log, tap on voice. Whoops, not message. I want to go to voice. And it shows you all of your different recordings. So I'm going to hit the top one.
Clear. Lows around 40. East winds around 5 miles an hour. Tuesday, sunny. Highs in the lower 70s.
There you go.
East winds around.
Back out of that. And that's how you record. Pretty simple. Well, now that I've told you all the things I like about the radio. I have a few little things I don't like. It doesn't dissuade me from keeping the radio or anything like that, but I did want to mention, in case you were interested in some of these features or these quirks about the radio. The first one is the APRS does not decode as well as, say, the Kenwood models. I've often seen signal strengths on a signal go into the red on the signal strength meter, but it doesn't decode. But on my computer, with a software decoder, it decodes just fine. So I don't know how I don't know if it's an actual TNC or if it's a software thing or how they're doing the decode on the packets, but it just, I mean, it still works, but it's not as sensitive, I guess, as the Kenwood, especially the D72 that I had. It was very sensitive. Even on a weaker signal, it could decode pretty well. So, you know, it is what it is. I mean, there's a lot of stuff packed in this little bitty radio, so not a huge deal, but it is something to note if you're getting this specifically for APRS. Sticking with APRS, it doesn't seem like there's a voice alert, which is, the Kenwood radios have what's called voice alert, where it sets your CTCSS tone to 100, and then if somebody else has their radio programmed to that, they'll only hear your packet when you're close by. So it's kind of like a little radar, like, hey, so and so's on here, he's within a couple miles, or however close your radio will receive, depending on your antenna and all that. But I've set this, I've got a memory channel here, it's set to voice alert, and it seems to ignore it, even though I've manually set the CTCSS tone to 100. So, again, not a huge deal. Another little quirk, it doesn't really bother me too much, but if you're into satellite stuff and used to a D72 type radio that is full duplex, this is not a full duplex radio. It does it has two receivers in it, but it does not, you can't transmit and receive at the same time like say the D72 or like a D7 710, something like that. So just be aware if you're, it doesn't mean you can't work a satellite. You just won't be able to hear yourself while you're transmitting. So just something to be aware of. Another little quirk it's a little frustrating with this radio is the 225 to 400 megahertz range, band, whatever you want to call it, seems to be locked to FM only. And I've got my local airport military tower frequency, just 229.4, and the mode button is grayed out, so it's stuck on FM. So that's a little frustrating. If you want to monitor, we don't get too much military traffic as far as I know in my area, but if you're wanting to monitor both civilian and military traffic on this radio, you're not going to be able to do it unless I'm missing something. If you know of a way to do it, let me know, but it'd be nice to be able to switch it to AM. Another quirk of this radio is when you do a scan, it just shows you this MEM scan on the screen. Now, this doesn't really bother me too much, and I really didn't notice it. I wouldn't have noticed it had I not had the FT5DR in the past, because on the FT3, when you did a memory scan, it would show you the frequencies as it was scanning. But for the FT5, they've just switched it to MEM scan. Now, I don't know if this is due to speeding it up or battery life or what it is, but just a little quirk. Doesn't really bother me, but I've seen some folks online a little more frustrated than I am about it, so I just wanted to mention that if you are coming from an FT3. Now, one thing that is a little frustrating, especially if you're into satellites or you're using this radio for I don't know, county hunting or something like that. On the GPS screen, there is no Maidenhead grid square shown, which I find very interesting. As far as I know, all the Kenwoods will show this, but it's just kind of weird that they're not showing the grid square. So it would be nice if you could kind of change some of these fields to say, you know, I don't really need the altimeter, the speed right now, put in the grid square. But as of the current firmware, you can't do that. And I don't know if they have any plans to add that or not, but a little frustrating. But I mean, it's not a huge deal. Again, you can always probably pull it up on your phone or a separate GPS or something, but it'd just be nice to have it on the display on the radio itself. Here's another little quirk. You remember that nice feature that you could record your both receive and transmit audio? I love that feature. But what I don't like is if I go in here, I turn on record. It's recording. And say I shut the radio off. We'll shut the radio off here. Turn it back on. And record is off. Again, it's not a huge issue, but it would be nice, especially when I'm in the car, because when I have it plugged into the DC outlet, the radio comes on automatically. And when I shut it off, the radio shuts off. So it would be nice if I didn't have to manually remember to record, because I like to record things in case I hear the space station go over and I hear, you know, either the astronaut up there talking or just it as a dual band repeater. I like to record that stuff and listen to it later. So, you know, you'd have to go back in here and hit record. Yeah, I know it's like a few seconds, but if you just jump in the car and go, and you're like, you get halfway down the road and you've already heard what you wanted to record and you forgot to record it, it's a little frustrating, but just another little thing. Now, one other issue I have with this radio that's a little frustrating is there's some sort of artifact noise when you have a bunch of options turned on. Like if I turn on, right now I've got the squelch open, but I've got the sound down. So that's just your regular squelch. But even with it off, there's nothing there right now. But let me turn on the GPS here. And then I'm going to turn on the GPS log to 1 second. And then I'm going to hit record. And let me put this to the microphone and see if you can hear it. Do you kind of hear that clicking or that kind of static, but not the static in the background? That's from the squelch. But it's like a click, 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 click. Now, as soon as I shut off, let me stop recording. Still there. Now if I go to log, let me shut off the log. Whoops. Let's see. GPS log, turn that back to off. Oops. Now that clicking's pretty much gone. Sometimes I have to shut off the GPS as well, so I'll go ahead and do that. Now let's see. So the clicking's gone. So it's kind of interesting, and I've tried this. I've plugged in the speaker mic as well, and that noise makes it to the speaker mic. So it's not just the internal speaker that's affected. I'm thinking, and I don't know, but my thought is it's something to do with the recording. Like it's something to do with the SD card. Like every time it writes to it, so it's especially noisy when I turn on the log. You could hear that click, 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 click. It's to me, it sounds like it's noise from it writing to the SD card. So I thought that was interesting. It's not a huge deal because usually the audio can override it, but just something I wanted to mention. So that's my little review about the FT5DR. Now, I didn't go through every feature of the radio because there's plenty of videos out there that do that, but I just wanted to point out a few likes and dislikes that I had with the radio. So what are your thoughts about this radio? Do you plan on buying one, or do you have one already? If so, what are your likes and dislikes with the FT5DR? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and make sure to ding my bell to be notified when I post new videos. Thanks again, and 73 from K9SWX.